So why am I doing this? I'm starting this podcast because we all have a story and finances play a part in our struggles and successes. If we can learn from the many mistakes many others have made, we can make sure that more of us are successful. Like the quote says, to increase the chances of success, we must increase our failure rate. To be honest, I failed a ton. I will bring people from all walks of life, but mostly service members. If you have a story you would like to share, do not hesitate to reach out. From the go, like and subscribe to this podcast so many others can benefit. Welcome back to Financial Enabler Podcast. Today we have Joe Malone. He was former MARSOC Raider, whatever you guys want to call him. I know there's a whole bunch of opinions about that nowadays. But former MARSOC Raider. We've walked a lot of similar. We've been around a lot of same people. The most influential EOD tech in my life. He was also with him. So super stoked to have him. We have post-military. We've talked. We have also a lot of similarities. Which the guy's name is John Assaraf, which most people don't even know about him, which is very funny. But the guy is highly influential, and I think very impactful in our lives. But Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. This is awesome. I really wish I would have known somebody like you when I was still in. I think my financial situation would have been a little bit different, but I guess I learned the hard way every time.
I think most of us do. And I think that actually, I'm gonna tie this to John Assaraf. A lot of the community that he's in highlights the point that we obviously always learn the hard way, and we have to wait for our life to fall apart to learn.
Yeah,
but we don't have to. It's just that we don't do anything to prevent that. But he and his network of people, they're always trying to improve while things are good, and that's why they have exponential growth. So absolutely. I appreciate you saying that, because that's people always say is that who's your key audience, and being in the finance space, the right answer should be old white dudes, right? But that's not my key audience. I'm shooting for the under 30-year-old service member that probably doesn't know anything, right? That it's in yours and my shoes, 10 whatever many years ago, and it's like, what do I do with this lack of money or too much money? Because we see both of them in the military, and we choose to move forward. But tell us a little bit about what are you doing now post-military?
So I got out in 2019, and we'll dive a little bit into that here in a moment, I'm sure. But dude, I probably could have set a record for one of the worst transitions ever in history. I mean, I just did everything possibly wrong that I could, and to some degree, it's because I wanted to. I was just trying to die, honestly. Like I just wanted to die. And I was able to turn life around pretty drastically, really quickly. And now I wanted to work with schools on active shooter stuff, but no schools wanted to work with me. I thought that was kind of strange. So I saw in 2020, people needed training on how to defend themselves. And so I started a company called Southern Cross, where I provide workplace violence readiness and prevention training. And then I also run JM Training, which is more the business to consumer tactical training. I have this university called the Lethality University. It's an online masterclass, and I coach a lot of people on how to keep their family safe. So that's what I'm up to these days.
That's incredible. And I'm gonna dive into it about your profession, but you said something that you wanted to die. Is this like you actually were hoping you would die? Is this like suicidal thoughts, or can you expand on that? Because I don't. I'll give a quick segue to give you why I'm asking this. I've said it in many podcasts. I was there. I survived. And one of the last guys I interviewed was the person that kept me alive. So I think that those of us that have been through it and are here together, at least putting together our life, is important for people to hear. So can you expand on that?
Yeah, I had just a lot of weird stuff going on in my head, and I had a lot of really bad professional and personal experiences. I got kicked out of sniper school with 4 days left because I didn't have a promotion ceremony. My team was on the C-130 that crashed, and so I felt really guilty that I wasn't on the plane with them. And then I found out I had some concussive injuries, TBI, which was responsible for a lot of this weird erratic behavior that I was having. And as I was leaving the military, I was really lucky that I at least learned about neuroscience on the way out. And it was from Doc Johnson over at Camp Lejeune TBI Clinic. Respects to that dude. Walks in, he's like, hey, you suffer from all these things? I was like, yeah, big deal. You could read a medical record. He goes, I didn't even look at your medical record. All I did was look at your brain scans. And this dude listed it all out. So he had my attention. So I learned that the brain functions as an artifact of all of our previous experiences. And I was able to use that information after being introduced somehow by divine intervention, I suppose, to people like Earl Nightingale, Ed Millett, John Asseroff. And I was homeless. I was living out of a tent. I was doing a bunch of high-risk stock options trading just before I got out of the military. And I literally lost every penny that I had. I was earning, I made like $30,000 in a week. So I was like thinking I was a prodigy. I'm popping all these prescription pills, slugging booze, just being reckless. And dude, like, I'll never forget, I had to pull over on the side of the highway because I was just screaming and crying, watching my account just go to zero and the options expired. So took out a loan thinking I could flip that. Nope, lost that in less than 24 hours. And now I'm sitting here with no job, no income, $64,000 of debt, like $0 in the bank. Like I couldn't even get gas to get back to Chicago. I was living in a tent on Onslow Beach, sticking a gun in my mouth every day. Just wanted to blow my fucking brains out. And sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss or not, but
feel free.
Yeah,
it was a safe space.
Cool. All right, good to know. But that's really what it was. And I remember thinking to myself a lot of stuff, but this is what the enemy wants me to do. This is what the Taliban, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, these douchebag, we call them elitists, but I call them douchebag, power hungry, generational family, 40-year politicians. That's what they want me to do. They want us to have these bad transitions. They want us to be purposeless and addicted to pain pills and slugging booze and then shooting ourselves in the face. Because the most resistance that these people who are in charge, these dark shadow government people, conversation possibly for another time of who I believe that is. I mean, I think anybody who's been in the community knows like who this is. Like it's what we've been trained to do, and we see it and we tell everybody, but for some reason half the population doesn't listen. But anyways, they want us to kill ourselves because we are going to be the most difficult challenge for them because we are fucking warriors. We fucking love this fucking country. We're willing to die. We're willing to kill. And I was going to be goddamned if I killed myself. So I was able to use what I learned from neuroscience and just start to flip it around, dude. And less than a year later, I'm living in a 4,000 square foot home, making a bunch of money, doing overseas projects, and just life started to head in a positive direction.
Wow. That's it. We could just end it. Let's just make this a 7-minute episode. That's it. I mean, what you got any further? Dude, that's actually so incredibly remarkable. And to hear the your crappy transition to that it's awesome. And I don't even know where to start with going deeper. So let's just leave it at you survived.
Yeah.
And that is incredible. Doc Johnson, for those of you that live in Camp Lejeune and you ever need to go get your brain checked out, that is the guy. I also did Intrepid Spirit over there.
Oh yeah.
But you said something that like resonates with me. I want to dive into it. It's the people that are impactful, that were impactful in your life. And the reason I'm asking you this, and tell me if this was your experience. In the military, you often walk up to a guy and it's like, who do you admire? Who do you look up to? And majority of our peers say nobody. As if because we have this sense of grandeur that we are so good that we shouldn't look up to admire anybody else. Right? But here you are, you mentioned Nightingale, Millett, and Asseroff. 3 guys that I think are super incredibly badass, especially like Nightingale being a badass Marine. So these guys are incredible, and they are, funny enough, super important to my life. Like I'm going to see Ed Millett at the end of this month. I got invited to a small event with him. I saw Asseroff in person. Obviously, I don't have your time with him just in October. And these guys are incredible. For me, at the point when Intrepid Spirit was Joe Dispenza, I actually gifted
another guy.
I gifted the Joe Dispenza book to all the important people to me in Intrepid Spirit. I was like, everything you guys are talking about, this guy talks about, and what you guys are doing is awesome, but he just does it through meditation and it's simple. Yep. So can you expand? I'm assuming you found these people all post-military. right? So go ahead.
Sorry. So the last 6 months that I had in the Marines, I had an overpriced apartment in Wilmington, and I had nothing in it except an ottoman, which I actually still have here in my home that I keep as just a token of remembrance, and a mattress. I had no other piece of furniture in the entire fucking place. And it was just me slugging booze and popping pills, and I was doing drugs and shit too. You know, like it was not a healthy situation.
Right.
And I never owned a TV my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But during this weird erratic phase of splurging and as I started to trade stocks, I was like, oh, I got to get like a screen that I could use for my laptop. So it was like Thanksgiving time, and I purchased a television so I could solely use it for the purpose of trading stocks and options. And somehow, I don't even know. Honestly, I have no idea how I came across Earl Nightingale. When I started I had this one freak out where I thought I killed myself. I thought I did, but I ended up waking up with my finger still on the trigger. My buddy was like pounding on the door because he knew I was in distress. I trashed what little I had in that apartment. And so I said to myself, when do I do this? Well, it's at night when I'm drinking. So I started taking sleeping pills, going to bed at like 7 p.m. And then I would wake up at like 2, 3 in the morning, which I still do to this day. I wake up at 3 a.m. I don't take sleeping medicine anymore, but I started to wake up and realize, man, okay, I'm not drinking. I have all this downtime. So what could I do? And I think I just went on YouTube. And for whatever reason, Earl Nightingale was one of the videos, and I clicked it and I watched it. And I was like, this motherfucker's like telling some truth. And from there, I listened to an interview with Tony Robbins and Ed Millett. And then I listened to an interview with like Ed Millett and John Assaraf and Bob Proctor and Joe Dispenza. Huge influence. And I just started to kind of use it. So I was still on active duty, but I wasn't like performing. I was just going to TBI clinic for 8 hours a day doing appointments, basically.
Wow. So it's crazy how it literally fell on your lap, and to me it's kind of funny. So I'll tell you a quick side story. I found Millett because a CSO called me and telling me all these people, and it was the people that coached Ed Millett. And fast forward, like now I'm getting mentored by the guy, getting mentored by Ed Millett. So it's crazy how all these people are like, I call it what you want. It feels like a force of good, of good dudes based on, and again, if you're in the audience, write down all these names. You can literally spend the next year just listening to these people and guarantee you're going to be better, and one thing you can focus on, they were all pieces of shit at one point, and they all had shitty lives and experiences, right? Like, I'll tell you guys, for the audience, like Earl Nightingale was one of the 15, I think it was, on board the USS Arizona survivors. So it's like to go from that to one of the wealthiest people in America is incredible. So super awesome that you found all those people. How did you end up getting coached, mentored by John Assaraf for a year? I think you told me about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, at the time, that was the capstone of the transformation, right? So I just, and there was ups and downs for sure. Like I didn't necessarily completely stop options trading, and I made a bunch more money, and then I lost a bunch more money, and then I made and lost, and ultimately ended up sinking myself into like $250,000 of debt. But mindset, I never started to focus on that. And even though the world was burning around me, and my wife and I were almost going to have to like foreclose on the house, and, we just had a miscarriage and like, late miscarriage, and just all this crazy shit. But I just, knowing how the brain functions and how energy flows where your attention goes, right? Or, vice versa. That's when I just started to say, you know what, fuck it. So I just kept focusing on the things that I could make positive and construct and build and contribute, and just constantly keeping myself in check with these negative thought patterns and staying, ahead of myself and consciously intervening against them. And ultimately I had a little bit of money, and I'm sitting there one morning feeling stuck. And I'm just like, I wonder if I could work with John Asseroth. And I went on his website and it said, yeah, I get coached by him. So I filled out an application. I get a phone call like a day or so later. Turns out it only takes like a couple of people a year. And it's basically every penny that I had saved.
Wow.
It's a, you know, a guy's worth, you know, his time. And so I turned to my wife and I'm just like, this guy was such a major influence on me changing a couple years ago. That's just a couple years ago. It's like 2 years ago. And now here I am with the opportunity to literally work with him. How much faith do I have in myself and in the universe and in energy and in God to drop it, all of it, and go through with it? And she was like, my wife's so badass, dude. She's just like, whatever you want. You know, I trust you.
Wow.
And I literally spent all of our money at that time. Got coached by him for a year, learned a lot. I mean, the guy's just got so much information. It was like an overload for me. Still is, honestly. Like to this day, it's been 2 years since I worked with him and I'm still deciphering a lot of it and still applying a lot of it. But what's crazy is when you bet on yourself and you go against all conceivable logic, everybody in the world would have told me I'm fucking nuts. All your life savings again after you've lost it and got it all back? Yeah, let's do it. And from there, I mean, everything else just kept falling in place, dude. As the world continued to seem like it was burning around us because we had a lot of other issues that were taking place, but focus on positive, fix what you can. And a lot of it's like combat, dude, where it's like, you know, you've got what's in front of you and that's where your focus needs to go. You don't lose sight of the big picture, but you know that you focus on the process. And if you perform the steps of the process correctly, the outcome is going to be good. And so that's just what I kept doing, man. And then I don't know if you watched the interview that I did with him. It's on YouTube. But at the end of it, I tell him, I'm like, dude, it's so fucking nuts that 2 years ago, I randomly come across your stuff. And here I am sitting in your house having this conversation with you about life and the mind and how I can make a positive impact in the world using the stuff that you taught me. It was beautiful, man. It was cool.
That's so amazing. And it's so funny how it fall in his lap. And it's funny to think of it's like he probably almost wanted it, right? And it's how we keep coming in his path. And one of the things that I love, and I'm pretty sure he says it, it's like the world is conspiring in our favor.
Oh, yeah. If you focus on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that like for the audience, this is big. I'm going to say this and it's probably not going to stick, but I know Joe and I believe it. It's like when you are focused on it, you can walk outside and all of a sudden you're going to get hit by a truck of good news. Like money is just going to start hitting you and opportunities are just going to start hitting you. But if you don't believe in it, then it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
It's almost that simple. And what John Asseroth teaches. Do you still exercise?
Oh yeah, dude. I every moment of the day, I'm technically exercising, right? Like I'm always tethering positive past experiences to the future expected outcomes. I journal every morning. I'm constantly in a state of gratitude. You know, for the audience, what we're talking about here isn't just foo-foo hippie bullshit. This is real physical science and quantum physics. It's both combined. And what we're talking about is the reticular activating system, a neural network in your brain that was created for survival when we were roaming the field. So when you got hungry and you said, man, I'm really hungry, you start to see the berries, you start to see the animal in the bush. That's why when you're having a bad day, everything seems to fall apart because your mind and your brain keeps focusing on that particular level of energy, that negative energy. And so what you can do, though, is you can consciously intervene against it. Or, as I like to tell all my clients, physical exercise. It's going to elevate your neurochemical disposition to be that of feeling good. When you're feeling good, you raise your rate of vibration and your frequency. And what your frequency, what you frequently see is your frequency. You're seeing the things on the same level that you're operating on, which primes the reticular activating system to now see opportunities that you perhaps wouldn't have seen if you were just in a mopey, shitty mood. And absolutely 100%. When it seems like the fucking world is burning down around you, my man, if you just focus on the process and you consciously intervene those negative defaulted thoughts in your brain, keep fucking pushing. Don't fucking ever give up. So many people give up. And then they're just like, oh, that was all bullshit anyways. And then they just fall apart and they're like, you gave up. You got no other choice. Keep fucking pushing. And things work out. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you what this year's already been looking like for us. I've made more, and I just use money as a means of like score of contribution, if you will, right? Like money's a good thing. Like it could be a great thing. You can't give what you don't possess. I have already made this year alone more than I made, I think, the 3 years combined.
Wow.
It's fucking nuts. And it's all because during the contraction, that down phase, I didn't lose sight and focus on the big picture. I kept myself pure, my intentions pure, my thoughts pure, and my actions pure. And it's coming to fruition. It's beautiful.
Dude, that is so amazing. And again, it's going over people's heads. I'm sure it is. And I'm tied to combat. And this is something that I explain to people when I explain the same things that you're talking about, is that would you ever say in combat, man, I really hope this raid goes well today? No, nobody ever says that. You know you're going to win. That's how we go into it. So you're already setting a predisposition of success, of winning. And then every step of the way, even when things are falling apart, somebody has to call a QRF. Somehow in combat, we're still thinking we're going to win.
Yeah.
Right. So it's something that is so tangible in conflict in our military training that we do it over and over and over again. But most people suck at applying it in life and finance and whatever. And think about it, like the entire military experience for the countless dudes that have not had the opportunity to go to combat. That's all training is. Go to a mission. You're going to win it. You're going to do this training. You're going to win it. You're going to win it. But then you go home and you're complaining because you're sad Nancy that life sucks or whatever, or you don't have enough money, or like it's not enough. But you never say, I hope this raid is going to go well. You always say we're going to go win it. So if you said it in the same tone, I'm going to make more money. I'm going to have an amazing relationship. And you just stuck with it. Everything changes. And that's something that I've learned, and I think it applies to you as well, that the tools, experiences that we got in the military is so applicable to everything. And it is a genuine blessing once we can see through it and all the bullshit that comes with it, that obviously humans have, there's crappy people everywhere, right? That try to take it away from us, right? They're still part of the human experience. But these tools have allowed us to be even more successful, right? Because we've seen it out in other things and it becomes real, right?
Yeah. If you apply.
If you apply them, right. Which most people won't, because they'll still default to, oh man, I don't have enough money. Case in point, nobody says, oh, well, you know what? I'll take this back. Some people would, but majority won't. Nobody actually says, you know what? We're not going to go out on this mission. We don't have enough support.
Right.
You make it happen, right? Like, because this is the cards you're dealt. And you go and you win, right? The mindset is winning. And I think that that's what's led, American military to continue to shine, right? Like all of these big names, I'm not saying that they're exclusively American, but majority of these people that think this way and are applying it are American. There's something to be said with that, right? Like, why hasn't there been a large amount of these level of people from other nations, right? And I think that's probably a fortunate American experience. Go ahead.
I think a lot of what you're also saying has to do with the resources. So when we're going on missions or when we're training, it's like I have this abundance of resources. And even if I don't, I'm around people. The group that I'm with, you're the sum total of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And if you're with driven people who are going to accomplish the mission, then you're going to be the 6th person driven. But what I see in the private sector, at least, my kid's rolling up here with his bubble gun. He might start shooting me with it.
I mean, you deserve it. You deserve it.
What's up, buddy? We as individuals get treated like shit so much in the military, and that's conditioning. And this has been one of the biggest problems that I've had in terms of like marketing my services, where I'm like, man, I'm not that good. I should shut my mouth. I shouldn't, be boasting about myself. When the reality of it is, I'm not even being a douchebag. I'm just talking about the life experiences I've had. And so that creates a lot of uncertainty and lack of confidence within the individual. And so then, therefore, the group of people they're around is usually old friends, people who haven't done much. So now they have this internal conditioning based off of fucking hands and walking on the grass and you're always a piece of shit, right? They don't see the resources that they have because they're existing in a quantum or an internal neurological level, because we all have the same abundance of resources, and they have the wrong group of people around them. And so all that stuff really just comes together to create that shitty focus, that shitty lifestyle. And that's been pretty detrimental, I think, to a lot of people, is getting out and not having the vision to see what's actually around them.
Yeah. And with that, with the 5 people, have you had to let go of some of your relationships from the military?
Yeah, I would say that they let go of me more than anything. So I had a really big falling out with a lot of people. I ended up dating a woman who was a widow, and I didn't know her beforehand. We totally met through natural means. I was pretty jacked up. I didn't like necessarily treat her the best, but we were just a horrible mix for each other. And so I think a lot of people got pissed off at me over all that stuff. And so, whatever. But in terms of like the people who I maintained friendships with and after I left, no, because they realized the same thing. They're like seeing all these millionaires, these billionaires, they're realizing they're not that special. And then they say to themselves, why the fuck can't I be a millionaire? I never thought that was possible until just a couple of years ago, the way I was raised. Yeah. And I'm like, why the fuck can't I be a millionaire? Why do I need to get $100,000 a year job and be like, boom, made it? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Bro, and so I love that.
Yeah, because that's what we tell ourselves. Hey, I'll get out. I'll get my retirement. I'll make $100,000 doing some consulting or something like that. And then boom, I made it. Why would you sell yourself so short? The impact that we provide to the world is so immense, especially in America right now. And yeah, guys just sell themselves short. Girls sell themselves short. But again, it goes back to that internal and external conditioning and the lack of the sight of the resources that they truly have around them. They've never been taught.
That is, you're right. They're stuck in their environment. While, and I'll bring back to every single person that we said, all the big names that we said, guys, they were all poor. Mm-hmm. Like dirt poor. And that's you look at, they were all poor. They all had shitty experiences. They all had suffering, but they all converted that hardship, the bad experiences, and they converted it into positive energy, driving them to success, instead of, again, if I hit you, I didn't mean to miss you, a victim. Yeah. Oh man, my life sucks. Right? Like Nightingale, he was like, I think have you listened to the story? Like, super after, I think it was
during the Great Depression. Went off in World War II, was a Marine, like he said. Everybody basically around him got smoke checked. And then as he got out, he noticed people just going back to work with the masses, and he was like, "Why are we doing this?" Just the moment he took a step back, again, just like combat, like shit starts getting hectic. You find yourself just in this position. You take a step back and you look at the big picture. Jocko talks about this all the time, like taking a step back and like viewing what's going on. Why am I doing this? I'm not happy. My life fucking sucks. I'm putting a gun in my mouth every single fucking day. I'm slugging booze, just trying to forget everything. I'm not treating people nice. Why? And then what can I do different?
Yeah. And all these people now have this perspective of like, they generally believe they can make infinite money. There's no cap in the amount of money. And I'll say this much. Neither Joe or I are saying go make money for money's sake. But the idea is, and Joe said it, if you make money, what impact can you have? It may be something as simple when your mom calls you, is like, son, I have cancer. And you can be like, no drama, mom. I'll pay for the best doctor in the planet. Oh, he's in China. I'll fly him over. Don't care. So it's like, or you have that friend and it was like, hey, bro, I lost my job. It's like, bro, I'll hire you right now. I'll pay you $200,000 a year to keep doing what you're doing. If you had infinite money, then it wouldn't matter. But we're stuck in thinking that money is purely selfish, right? No. Go out and make an impact, right? And that's what, like, I think that you and I are we're in very different paths, but we're in a path to make an impact on people's lives, right? In any which way, which I want to take advantage of this to bring it back to like the financial side. In your upbringing, where you brought up, was there lack in your life where you guys raised strapped for cash? How was your upbringing before the military?
Yeah, very scarcity mindset. So my dad works for the FDIC, so government, right? To give you an example of my dad's money mentality, he set up my TSP for me when I first joined, put everything in the G fund, everything. I lost out on the greatest bull run of our nation's history because he's so conservative and risk adverse that he put everything in I think it's the G fund is the lowest return. It's like the government bonds or something, or the F fund or G fund. So he did good, and we were raised in a middle class home, and we always had food. My mom was raised on a cattle farm, like straight up dirt road to a dirt road farm in Michigan. And she was the only one of her siblings, one and one other one out of 9 siblings. They left home. And so she had a very scarcity mindset, pinching all the time. And you can't spend your money. You need to save it. Well, what the fuck good did that do me, after I lost it all? So, yeah, there was money there. I was never hungry. It's always provided for very well. But the mentality behind money was, don't even think about being a millionaire. It'll never happen to you. Like my dad actually still to this day, he just laughed at me. I think it was last summer when I was talking about a certain amount of money to make. And then, I actually needed his help on something, which I don't ask for often, but he came over pretty recently and he was kind of looking at some of my spreadsheets. And I'm not going to lie, like it kind of felt good to just be like, yeah, motherfucker, like stop teaching people that they can't be wealthy, because the impact you provide to this world, the service you provide is what contributes to your wealth. And so that's how I was raised.
Wow. Did then and throughout your time in the Marine Corps, because I know that the change happened late in your career, but throughout all up until that moment, was it also still mostly scarcity, lack mindset, thinking that you'll never be wealthy, all that?
I had $30,000 after like 10 years or 11 years in, and I was like, thought I was doing good. I was like, okay, cool. I got my 30 grand. I'll never touch that. And, it's crazy because looking back now, money's energy. Everything is energy. And so if you treat it, again, energy goes where your focus is, right? So if you treat it like this thing, like, oh, don't want to lose it. Well, then it's the law of resistance. You're going to lose it. Mm-hmm. So every major risk that we've taken financially, like going down to Texas and living there for 3 months after losing $260,000, just being ripped off and other bullshit. Last of our money. Literally 1 year ago to this time, we went down to Texas with negative dollars in our bank account. And my wife and I just this morning were looking at the bank account in tears because we were thankful, we were grateful, we were laughing at how desperate our situation was just a year ago. But it's like when you defy logic and you truly believe in yourself, then you're betting on yourself, man. It's like, that's it. You just fucking have to, you go put in the work, your back's against the wall. It's like Sun Tzu, when your troops are against the wall, they'll perform at a new superhuman level. And it's just the same universal laws, man.
Dude, this is so cool. And I think that, and you tell me if it's wrong. I still talk to some of my friends, my old teammates, and I don't think anybody has been exposed. Well, if they've been exposed, you're the first that I've seen that is receiving it and accepting these beliefs, right? In our network, right?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that we're not even talking like new age crap. This is we're talking, like you said, early 1900s. People started putting it on books and tied into findings, right?
Yeah.
The world changed. So it's nothing special, but what do you think it is that our community is not receptive to this? And by our community, I mean military as a whole.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's ego. It sounds like some hippie bullshit. I thought it was hippie bullshit. When I was first at the TBI clinic and that guy's walking me through meditation and shit, I was like, whatever, dude. So I think a lot of it is You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? He's like, lay down and close your eyes. Neat.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy. Nuh-uh. But I think a lot of it's ego and a lack of experience. And that's, again, the environment. You're operational, you're training, you're around the same people, you're doing the same stuff. And that doesn't allow you to have that room to grow. Big thing for me was when I was kind of like ostracized from everybody and stopped hanging out with people. And I had the freedom to open up my thought process because I needed to. But I think that's why it's the environment.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've been thinking a lot about that. Is that what effect would it have on combat forces to have this perspective into conflict? You know, like, and I was like, and I thought about this for a little bit, and then I was like, this is what the high level units do. They're ingrained the environment of like, you are just a winner. You will always win. And you happen to be more important than every single plane and tool that we have. They're just going to help you. So it's incredible to think that that's where it starts. And I've been asking this to my friends that are those high level units. And I was like, what books are you guys reading? Who do you guys talk to? And then lo and behold, it's a lot of the same people that you and I are talking about.
Yeah.
And those units just hire them. It's like, come and talk to us. But they're more receptive. They're like, okay, this guy with his mumbo jumbo beliefs may not make me 100% better, but I'm going to walk out of here 1% better. Maybe this 5-minute meditation might be a game changer, and they all receive it. So there's a point that they're open-minded and receptive by, like we said, ego, lack of experience, and narrow-minded that creates those self-limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah.
With that, and on limiting beliefs, can you identify a limiting belief that you still have?
Absolutely. I think those organizations, their selection process looks for guys with an open mind and that level of like maturity. I think that's a huge part of it. I wrote a paper, right? I didn't write it for anybody other than myself, just to express my thoughts, but I called it The Fallacy of the Brotherhood, and how we stunt ourselves in the military, especially the Marine Corps. I love the Navy SEAL culture because they are so build each other up, as opposed to like MARSOC, for example, where you could have 6 deployments and show up to a team, and because you weren't there for the last deployment, everyone's like, fuck you. Who do you think you are? It's like, why are you talking like that, second guessing within oneself? I have a lot of limiting beliefs still that I've been working to destroy, to eradicate, and have been letting go of a little bit each and every day. More and more. One of them is definitely the whole, who the fuck do I think I am? Talk about stuff. Cause I had a really great career. I didn't have the most combat intensive career by any means, but I did some work and I got some. And even those experiences caused me to question, was it real? Like watching like a VBID go off and disintegrate like 5 or so dudes. It's like, did that really happen, or am I just making this up? And so when I'm talking to people about things like tactics and mindset, and I'm tying past stories to it, because everybody loves stories, right? That's how we learn. I find myself second guessing myself a lot of the time. And then I go back and I like have to look at the pictures to be like, okay, no, that really did happen. And so that's a big one. And I know for a fact that comes from my time in the Marine Corps, because everybody's got a bigger dick. The moment you start talking about this crazy experience you had, there's always somebody to jump up. That's not even crazy, bro. Like, I was shot and I fucking dragged my dead fucking buddy out the fucking fight. It's like, okay, I get it. That's fucking hardcore. Nobody's denying that. But the fact that somebody's always just there to shit on you, and really, quite honestly, the guys that I was with, the team dudes I was with, I was like 2 years behind like the craziest shit, right? The guys who were literally going in solo CQB, no indige force type stuff. It's like, okay, cool. That shit was badass. And I looked up to those dudes a lot, and I learned a lot from those guys. I came in the attachment time, where we had to go out with Afghans, or, we had to be linking up with a Kurdish force or something like that. Still did a lot of great work, and we burnt a goddamn city to the ground. Like, we did a fucking amphibious assault in the Middle East with 2 Winchester AC-130s. Like, it's still really amazing stuff. But at the same time, because of so many years of conditioning and just being told, hey, shut the fuck up, I find myself telling myself to shut the fuck up a lot. So that's just one of them.
That's do you see that as imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, I think that's a big part of it. To even tie it with some more context, I was shooting up heroin at 16 years old. So when I was 16 years old in Chicago, I fucking stuck needles in my arm till I was about 18. When I was 18, 18, I watched my best friend graduate Marine Corps boot camp, and that's what changed me. And I even look back to those experiences, and when I'm talking to people about how to quit drug addiction, I'm like, do I really know what I'm talking about? But I do. And I'm much further ahead at not feeling that way anymore. But man, I tell you what, marketing yourself when you first get out of the military is petrifying. It's like you just feel like the biggest piece of shit in the world.
Right. Dude, and it's I'm glad you talk about that, because I've been feeling a lot about that in what I'm doing, as I'm helping people and with my social media, that it's am I really an authority? Right? Am I that good? And
yeah.
And the reality is that maybe, and I'm not even talking about posts or not yet, because it's a matter of time, amount of net worth of the people I speak with. But every single meeting that I have, people walk out like, wow, this is incredible. Like, what just happened? And it's coming to accept that you are that good. And it's an ongoing thing, right? Removing that limiting belief that I can't do that. I'm never going to make that much money.
Right.
Why would I have that reach? So it's interesting to see that it's that common, and even something that you're dealing with. Now, get out of kind of the negative, more of the imposter side. Where do you see your business going? Where are you guys going with it?
Yeah, I'm gonna train millions of people all across the country how to stay safe against violence. I'm going to have significant operational and strategic effects across this country by training large groups of people in condensed geographic areas all throughout the nation to keep themselves safe against douchebag violent criminals.
What would you say if you, assuming my audience was millions of people, it will be, what would you tell them? What are the first thing? Like, if you, obviously not one thing is enough, but what would be the first thing?
Security is the most basic necessity in life. You don't get food, you don't get water, you don't get relationships or shelter if you don't have security. And the primitive part of your brain knows this, the unconscious, not the sub, but the unconscious part of your brain. And you don't get to choose what that knows. And so because it knows you can't protect and defend yourself, because it knows you're fat and not strong, because it knows that you're susceptible to being attacked by anybody at any point in the day, it raises your sympathetic nervous system, your anxiety levels. And so if you suffer from any bit of anxiety whatsoever, it stems, the majority of the time, it stems from your inability to protect and defend yourself. And now when you look at that, you think to yourself, okay, like I did a post yesterday with my kid, my dog, playing with like bubbles and stuff. Talk to somebody whose child has been fucking murdered. And see if they still get the same feeling looking back at those types of memories that I get looking at my son. They don't, because when they look back at their dead kid, it's painful.
Right. And
so they don't get to cherish it like I do, because my child is alive and growing and thriving and a beautiful thing. They look back and they think about the pain that is now associated with. So you're setting your kids up and your grandkids up and everybody else generationally for that type of pain. If you do not set the example and learn how to simply keep them safe, which is your moral and ethical responsibility, if you ask me, if you're a parent. But the only way that we could ever get rid of crime is by knowing how to defend ourselves. Criminals aren't going to want to be criminals when they start getting shot in the fucking face. That's simple.
No, I totally agree with that. And now I want to talk a little bit about this because it's something that I had a realization just a few days ago, talking about wealth, right? The security that comes with wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you know, how awesome it is when your kid comes up to you and your kid is like, Dad, I want X. I want a PlayStation, which is something. No, not every kid. Actually, for that matter, we could argue that no kid needs a PlayStation. Actually, no kid needs a PlayStation.
A bike,
right?
or whatever. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Irrelevant, but we could say the ability of a father to say, no, I'm not going to get it for you is very different to say, I can't get it for you.
Yeah.
It's very different, the message that you send of security and stability versus I can't.
Yep.
You know, when a kid says, is like, Dad, I want to go on this field trip. When you say you're not because you were a piece of shit this last weekend and you're punished, instead of being like, we cannot afford it, right? You send a very insecure message and you start creating wounds in a child.
Yeah.
And I'll argue this, right? Fear. And I'll argue, a lot of people are always like, well, I don't want to have my kids be spoiled. And I'm like, then don't. And I've said this analogy before. I want to take my kid hunting and not bring food and then be like, suck it, nerd. We're hunting. We're not eating till you kill something, right? So you are able, and the wealthy people have figured out the way to create hardship while not lacking.
Yeah.
They've found a way to create strong, resilient young men and women without having to endure true hardship. So kind of think that in that way, maybe that is where our mission sinks, you know, like in security and stability of the family, security and stability of the individual, whether it's through the physical security or the financial security, right? I think, and at some point, those come at the merging point, right? If you right now, you're a highly capable person, but if you hired another highly capable person to keep watching your family while you're asleep, your security just went up, you know? So, and that's really just, in reality, the grand scheme of life, just a few dollars away, you know? So that's awesome. So why did you frame your mission or where you're going in so big? I know why, but can you tell people why did you frame it so big?
Yeah, because anything is possible. And if you aim for some little bullshit goal, then you're probably not even going to accomplish it. I read a book recently called It's Easier to 10X Than to 2X. And I forget who the author is. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about, where he talks about, look, if you want to 10X your impact, there's only like one or two ways you can 10X something. But if you want to like double it, there's like a million different ways and your energy gets dispersed and you don't really accomplish much. So I want to make as big of a positive impact on this world as I possibly can. And why not?
Yeah.
Why can't
it's his name is Ben Hardy.
Yeah. For the 10X book. Yeah.
And actually I heard his podcast on Ed Milet. I'll give you everybody a frame of reference. Like if you set your target as like, let's say you wanted to buy a house. Why not say that you're going to buy 20 houses? Who knows? Maybe you'll be at the bar and a massive investor's like, yo, bro, you sound trustworthy. I'll give you my money. Yeah. You never know, right? It's not impossible, right?
Dude.
And that's awesome. So I love that you set it that big, and I encourage everybody in this audience, set your goals bigger than what you think. Don't just say, I really hope I go to this unit. No, set why you want to go to that unit. What big goal do you want to have in your life? You know, and I personally believe, and maybe I've said it before, that service members generally set goals too small.
Yeah, that's what we're told to do.
That's what we're told, right? Just focus on your next unit, focus on your next billet. That's it. But in reality, we should be setting massive goals because we are unusually capable. We've achieved some level of hardship that most people will never be able to replicate, right? And that's pretty unique.
Can I share?
Yeah, please.
Share a quick story? Yeah. So talking about what you were just saying there with some random person in the bar. So first of all, when I went into MARSOC, I got out of the Marine Corps. I wasn't even an active duty Marine. And I randomly got this idea about MARSOC. I ran into some dudes. Long story short, they weren't even accepting inactive reservist members. So I said, okay, cool. I tried. They told me no. A week later, a MAR admin came out that opened it up to inactive reservist members. I was like one of the first 5 inactive reserve people to, might have even been like the first one. I don't know. But to make it into MARSOC. So that's like one thing there, right? Just doing it to take the chance. Now, when my wife and I, one of the 4, 5 times, whatever, that I lost all of our money is 2021 early 2022. It's April. And we just needed a break. And I had some airlines points saved up. I said, let's go to Austin, Texas. We've never been there. Let's go check it out and see if the demographic is more friendly for what we're trying to do as opposed to Illinois, because it's not friendly for me up here. I mean, I can't even sell rifles anymore. So no money. Again, use airline points, use points to get a car, a nice car. We've got like a Porsche convertible. We needed some sun. You know, we needed to just like decompress and take a trip and go somewhere nice, the West Hill Lake, park. I made the wrong reservation at a winery in the middle of nowhere during its reconstruction. We thought the place was closed because nobody was there. It was us for this huge winery, hundreds of acres. Not a single person was there except for us, the waiter, and the cook.
Wow.
So we're sitting there having dinner, and then another group of people come in, odd group of people at this table on the other end of the place, right? Well, as we're finishing up dinner, this small, I shouldn't say small, this shorter New York business, a Jewish guy. So, he's got a very huge attitude, but, small in stature, named Carl Melman, comes walking up to us. I thought he was a con artist. Starts just talking to us and hands me his business card. He goes, what are you doing? I go, I want to train people all across the country how to be safe against violence. He goes, here's my card. Can you meet me tomorrow? I want to talk to you. I was like, okay, sure, whatever. But we did. We went out there. We met up with him, talked for like 3-4 hours. He goes, can you come back tomorrow? I want to talk to you again tomorrow. And we're like, okay. He's living in a nice part of the town, very nice part. His phone's blowing up the whole time. And so I go back the next day. And he says, I want to help you with your business. I want to help it grow, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, okay, bro. When are you going to ask me for money? He's to this day, he's still never asked me for a single fucking dime. And he's made me tons of money. And he gave me a list of things to do. I went out, boom, did them, gave them back. He said, okay, now do this list of things. Boom, I did them, gave them back. I thought I was going to wear the dude out if he was fake. To this day, he's one of my dearest, closest friends now. He's made me so much fucking money, I can't even begin to describe. Plus the mentorship that he's given me throughout some of the hardest times in my life. All because, ladies and gents, while I was dead broke, I took a chance, followed my heart, and literally a Jewish business guy from New York landed in our fucking lap because we made the wrong reservation at a winery.
Hey.
That is just such a prime example that I will tell to the day that I die of how focusing on what you can positively impact and change and just following your heart and not focusing on now I'm so broke. Oh, I can't do it. That's a limiting belief mindset, and it will keep you there spiraling further downward until you die.
Yeah. That's such an incredible story. Let me ask you, have you noticed the same trend of a lot of these, well, maybe not all, a lot of these people taking the similar stories, like I did X with my last few dollars.
Yeah.
And they all bounce back. Right. And I'm pretty sure there's more stories like that than there is, I had my last few dollars and I didn't spend it and now I'm a wealthy. Like,
I don't know
that story.
Yeah. I don't know anybody like that. And I've been fortunate to meet a lot of millionaires and a couple billionaires at this point. And that's the thing that really started to switch my belief system about wealthy people. I used to think they're all evil and corrupt, right? And there's only a few, there's like some, but most of them are self-made. And when you talk to them, all of them were broke at some point, like desperately broke, living out of their car, living on the streets, living in the office. Wife was getting ready to leave them. And then they just kept betting on themselves. And they never focused on the world burning down around them. They didn't lose sight of it. They weren't stupid. They were still realist. But at the same time, they understood that if the energy went where their focus and attention was, then they couldn't afford to focus on that. And again, money is just energy. You'll always find a way if you believe in yourself.
Always find a way. Man, this is absolutely incredible. And I hope more people start betting on themselves and taking those unrealistic gambles with trust, right, and belief. Because most people that take those unrealistic gambles and not trusting, believing, they flunk. So this is awesome, dude. I think that I'm hoping that we stay in touch because, and I'm sure we'll do this again. Do you have any final message for the audience that you want to send, whether security related, mindset related? And lastly, how do they find you?
Yeah, if you're a veteran or really just anybody struggling with like depression or stagnancy or wanting more out of life, then yeah, hit me up. I'm on Instagram, Joseph Malone Official. You can reach out to me. It's always me there messaging people and get you squared away, man. It's not that hard. If I could fucking do it, anybody could fucking do it. And, everybody just sells themselves so short. The other thing that I do want to touch on as parting word really quickly is Tony Robbins wrote a book recently. I don't know if you've seen this yet, The Holy Grail Habit. So his older book, Money, Master the Game, very influential on my life. But in this, he talks about something that I think is really important, and that's private equity.
Yeah.
And if anybody, wants to talk about private equity, one of my clients right now, the guy I was actually telling you about before we got on the hook here, he has been providing pretty insane returns for people, like 5% interest monthly. And I've been watching it go down for over a year now. And he developed some technology and he's raising debt. And so if anybody out there wants access to some private equity, there are like some stipulations and conditions. But when I was reading this earlier today, I thought that, man, I got to like at least mention this because private equity has been very lucrative for myself as well. And I feel like I would be a douchebag if I didn't tell people that there is opportunity out there for private equity, which has substantially great returns. And you don't have to be like an ultra millionaire to have access to that type of stuff. So that's the other thing I did want to reach out to people and let them know is that there's an opportunity. The window is closing. It's only going to be open for, I don't know, a couple more months maybe. And then he's going to be done raising debt. But reach out if you guys are interested and you want to learn more.
Dude, that's absolutely amazing. I actually had that book in my my list of things that I want to catch up on. And Money Master the Game is next level when you start thinking about finance.
Changed my perspective on money, that's for sure.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, this was absolutely huge. Joe Malone Official on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
So feel free to reach out to Joe. Reach out to me if you guys have any questions. If you don't think that you don't know Joe, just reach out to me. I'll connect you guys. And dude, this was absolutely awesome. So we'll stay in touch and we'll have more people here for the next one.
You're doing great work, man. Fucking keep it
Thanks,
up.
man. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon. This podcast is not financial advice, and it only represents the opinions of those participating. Our goal is to get you to your version of financial independence. Please follow and like on every platform.